Hey y'all, welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Danielle. If this is your very first time here, and this is part 2 of our budgeting series. In this one, I'm just going to be talking to y'all like we friends. There will be no visual props this time because I'm really just trying to get this filmed and out as quickly as possible. So, in the first one, we kind of went over a little bit of everything, but we talked about essentially like how we budget, what our categories are on our budget, the template that I use to maintain our budget, and we talked about how I track things. So we'll touch on a little bit of that today too and go into a little more detail about it. And then we'll also bring up a couple more points. So for me, I mentioned in the last video that I track everything. And the point of it is not to be obsessive. It's not to it is control, but it's not obsession. It's like awareness. I need to know where the money is going. I need to know how much we have available at every point throughout the month so that there is no guessing. We're not trying to figure out what we can and can't afford. We can and can't afford. We're always being intentional about the money that we're spending because we know exactly where we stand with the money that we currently have. And that is really the main reason for tracking. I mean, without it, you don't know where you are. You don't know how much money you've spent. You don't know if you're like nearing the end of the allotted money that you have for groceries or for eating out or for whatever. If you're not tracking and you're not aware of your spending and where your money is going, you're going to go over somewhere and it'll make it so that you can't save like you want to. So the point of tracking is not to restrict yourself. The point of tracking is to be aware and make sure that where you set your budget is where you're actually falling. So you're meeting and reaching your goals, your financial goals. Because remember, before you even get to the tracking part, you have to figure out exactly where the money is going to go in the first place. And that's when you actually set your budget, create your line items, and decide, I'm going to spend this much on this thing, this much on this thing. Savings is this much. And in the last video, we talked about percentages, my percentages for my individual budget for my family. And I just felt like that was the easiest way. But everything is in that last video. If you want like details, you should go back and watch that one. It looks like this. But once you've reached the point where you have created your budget and you know exactly where you're supposed to be spending your money, then the tracking comes in. That's when you need to know, just stay on top of how much you're spending in each category and whether or not you're on track to meet your financial goals for that month. You can always adjust, especially I like to make adjustments at the end of the current month, right before the next month starts. I don't necessarily tend to make adjustments in the middle of a budgeting cycle. I usually make them for the following month. Like I mentioned in the last video that one of the categories that is not really serving us well is the like household items. First of all, I group like 3 things into one category. So it's household items, hair products, and toiletries. That's one line item. And our current budget for that, I can't remember what percentage it was, maybe 2%, 1% of our budget, something like that. Probably like 1%. I think it's less than 1%. I can't remember. Anyway, the amount is in last video. But whatever it is, it's not enough. So I'm going to, at the end of this month, before we start the next cycle, I will be allotting more money to that particular budget because if we're going to go over it every month, then it's obviously not enough and we need to make it more. So that's just an example of, how you can kind of keep things in flux, make room to adjust in real time, and make sure that your budget is actually serving you and it's sustainable for you. And then for me, tracking looks like categorizing transactions. So when I take a look at my bank statement, for me, my credit card statement, because I'm not using a debit card on anything except really not anything. All of the things that come out of my bank account are like direct payments from the bank account itself, not from a debit card necessarily. if I can put card information in, I'm going to put a credit card number in, and not a debit card, because I want those benefits. If I'm spending the money regardless, I might as well get the miles. I might as well get the cash back. I might as well get something for the money that I'm spending. So I will not put anything on a debit card. I don't use my debit card. Matter of fact, the debit card that I got most recently is not even activated yet, and they keep telling me, I keep getting notifications that I need to activate it, but I don't really need it because I don't use it. So yeah, I never use a debit card. Now, this is not something that I recommend if you don't feel like you have a good relationship with credit, and you don't think that you can pay your bill regularly and stay on track of your spending. I don't put things on credit cards necessarily that I didn't intend to buy anyway. Like, I'm buying things that I was going to buy anyway, and I'm just paying it off. And I pay my credit card bills like once a week. I don't let it pile up to the end of the month, because I just feel like it gets crazy. The number gets crazy. I just want to pay it. Like, I want to make payments very often, so I'm staying on top of it. I shared the actual spreadsheet that I use, but I'll also let y'all know here. So I just use Google Sheets, and then they have specific templates in Google Sheets. I typed in budget, and I used one of the budgeting templates in the Google Sheets, on the Google Sheets website, or in the app. So I've already gone over the spreadsheet formula, how I use formulas to calculate things for me. And then another thing I wanted to say is that you need to build systems. Build systems. By that I mean, for saving, I don't go in and manually save money. I have it set up with my bank so that whenever we get paid, as soon as the paycheck hits our account, it is automatically transferring a percentage of our paycheck to savings. For us personally, it's 16%. I know I said we save about 20% of our income, but that also includes any additional money that I transfer over if we have anything extra, like if Bernie works overtime or something like that, and we just have extra money, then I can transfer additional money. Okay, I had to charge my camera, and now I'm in the car. But I was saying that if my husband works overtime, that's a good example of a time when we might put extra money into savings. Our normal paychecks are already accounted for. Anything over that, well, first of all, any additional money, no matter how much the check is, that 16% is coming out regardless. So it's already kind of taking 16% of whatever overtime he got. But if we don't need the extra money, like the other 84%, we could also transfer that over to savings as well. So sometimes a lot of the times we'll exceed our savings goal, because not only are we saving 16% of our income through automatic paycheck transfers, we're also saving, I will typically save some of my YouTube earnings. I keep a certain amount in my YouTube high yield savings account, but then I also transfer anything over that to savings. And then on top of that, we are using a high yield savings account. So we are getting hundreds of dollars in monthly interest payments. So all those things combined is kind of how we stay on top of saving and can save more than the 16% that we transfer from our paychecks as soon as they hit our account. For me, it's every other or every 2 weeks. For him, it's every week. And then also kind of touched on fragmenting our money, so putting it in different accounts. One example of this is that my YouTube check goes into or my YouTube money, any sponsorship payments, anything that has to do with YouTube goes into a separate account outside of our normal, the money that we spend. For a long time, I didn't spend any of the money that I got from YouTube. And then I was able to pay for King's, college classes with my YouTube checks. And then I was able to start saving again when he wasn't in school anymore. And now I'm transferring all the overage to our savings. So YouTube gives me flexibility. I have money from YouTube, but then I also can kind of direct it to other goals that we have. So King's schooling, or if it's saving, or if it's like vacations, whatever it is, I can kind of decide where that money needs to go. And then obviously we have a checking account, a normal checking account that we pay all of our bills out of, the ones that we're not allowed to pay with the credit card. And then we have our savings, like our joint savings account, and then my YouTube savings account. So that's and then King also banks with us, so I can see his account, and he also, you know, has access to that. So his account is also kind of in that ecosystem of checking and savings accounts. And he also has a high yield savings account, so that all the money that he's saving, he's getting interest payments on as well. Another thing that I never actually mentioned is those are the main accounts that we use as far as banking goes, but then I also have a bunch of credit card accounts. I think at this point I probably have about 10 credit cards or so. It's about that much. Every time I need a credit card for a particular purpose, I'm going to get a new credit card. So I have like a Disney credit card, so when we go to Shanghai Disney, when we go on our Disney cruise, all that kind of stuff, I can use the Disney credit card to get discounts and perks and stuff. I have the Venture X travel card. I have we also have the Venture One travel card. I have the Hilton Aspire card, which is an American Express. And that's an American Express travel card, obviously Hilton Loyal. And then I have a couple other American Express cards, a couple other Capital One cards. I'm saying a couple other because I don't actually use those cards anymore. And then most recently I got a US Bank credit card, and the only real benefit for that one is that it had a 0% intro APR. So if y'all saw the furniture video I posted not that long ago, I bought new dining chairs with that US Bank credit card. It has a 15-month 0% interest APR, and I don't have to pay on it for 15 months. Am I going to let it sit for 15 months? No. Well, actually, no. We're a couple months into that 15-month period. As soon as you get the card, that 15-month, that clock starts to tick down. So we weren't at 15 months when I actually charged the chairs to it. I think we were around 12 or 13 months. I don't intend to let it sit for that long because it's only $1,600. I'll probably pay a few $100s a month until it's paid off. It'll be paid off long before we get to that 15-month, or before we get to the end of that 15-month period. And then when I want to get new floors or whatever else, other home projects you want to do, whatever's happening, I will get another 0% intro APR card to cover those expenses. Because it does not make sense to use our liquidity, the money that we have liquid in our savings account. It doesn't make sense to use that if I can use somebody else's money and I can afford it. So I'm never going to spend down my savings account to pay for something that I can buy with credit. It doesn't make sense. There's no benefit to doing that. And then as far as money goes, anything that's left over throughout the month, there's really not much left over typically, because like I said, if we get some sort of extra payments, or if I have a sponsorship come up, or if I have a surprise payment from affiliate marketing or something like that, I'll just go ahead and either save it with my YouTube account, or transfer it over to our joint savings account. And if Bernie works overtime, whatever it is, if there's extra money, at this point it's going to savings. At some point it'll probably go to something else whenever we have a different goal. But right now we're rebuilding our savings after paying off a vacation or flights. Typically I would have put those on a 0%, the flights on a 0% intro APR credit card. But when I got that US Bank card, the point of it was to put the flights on it. But typically when you get a new card, they'll give you the card number right then, and then you can buy stuff immediately. US Bank was not that way. And this was my first time ever having any sort of interaction with them or any dealings with them. If I had gotten a new American Express card or a new Capital One card, I know I could have used that immediately, but with this particular card, I couldn't. I had to wait for the physical card to come in the mail. So I wasn't able to use it to purchase the flights. And so I decided to put the flights on the Hilton card, got the points for it, and use those points for multiple trips that we have coming up. And everything doesn't always work out 100%, but that's just one example of what the perfect scenario would have been, and then what I did instead. I kind of had to pivot. And in addition to what we do with extra money, we also talked about in the last video what we do with money that is unspent. So for certain categories like the kids, groceries, pretty much every category except me and Bernie's personal budgets does not roll over. So if we don't spend some of that money, we will just reset the budget and it'll be as if it never happened. If there's extra money to save, we'll save it. But for me and Bernie's budgets, if we don't spend all our money, it rolls over because we're already pretty low. We're spending only 2% of our total income on ourselves. So that money rolls over to the next month. If, say for instance, I have $200 left or $150 left in my budget, I'll tack it on to next month's budget. And that way, if I want to make a major purchase, I can just let my money build up over the months and then spend it on something major later. So I think that's mostly what I wanted to touch on in this video, and I think hopefully that was helpful. I don't know what else y'all want to know, so let me know what else you think might be helpful for you to know about budgeting, and I will answer y'all's questions in the next video. I'm hoping to do at least one more episode of this. I know y'all have questions about credit, but I need specific questions. I've gotten some questions, like vague questions about credit cards, about credit, mostly those two. But I need like more specific questions so I can answer it with more specificity. So if you have questions, be sure to drop them below, but also be very specific about what you want to know. That way I know exactly how to answer it. Okay, y'all, my voice is like cracking. I need to go get something to drink, and I will see y'all in tomorrow's video. Bye.